Let's get to our second piece of news, and that's more details on Bray Wyatt's release from the WWE. More details are beginning to emerge about the release of Bray Wyatt from the WWE. Of course, the name Bray Wyatt no longer fits, as that was WWE's property, but we are of course referring to Wyndham Rotunda. Formerly known as The Fiend, and very possibly about to be repackaged as a Joker-style The Friend, Rotunda was fired by the WWE over the weekend. Since then, a number of details have emerged, some of which are directly contradictory to each other. I'd like to clear some of these up and make it very clear as to the reality of the situation. First and foremost, Bray Wyatt did not request his release. Bray Wyatt was fired. If you watched my live video, which started just moments before the release was confirmed by the WWE, you'll know that Wyatt was originally on one of Nick Khan's release lists, but that he was removed by a high-ranking executive, very possibly Vince McMahon himself, before they could actually release him. Welcome Corey, thank you very much for the host. Dave Meltzer is reporting that Bray Wyatt was on the injury list. If that's the case, then clearly not everyone in WWE believed it was genuine. But it does make sense given how often the WWE was making phone calls to him only to be told that he wouldn't be returning. He simply wasn't ready to. His release was not injury related. When news emerged that his release was a cost-cutting measure, this was something we here at the Tom Colohue channels already knew and already had a lot of experience with. I've explained the cost-benefit analysis system, and it's exactly that which Wyatt fell foul of. Now, Wyatt has basically every possible option available to him, particularly when you consider he's someone who could literally write his own character. There is obviously some interest from AEW. Outside of that, I believe there is some interest from Impact, possibly New Japan, but I haven't heard anything in that regard. People in AEW are literally singing Wyatt's praises to management as a creator, so even possibly just bringing him in as a writer. I mentioned Matt Hardy and Cody Rhodes previously being known fans, but they are far from the only fans that Bray Wyatt has in the building. One thing I do have to say though, and I shouldn't have to say this, but I do, is that Wyatt's release had absolutely nothing to do with Alexa Bliss. I know no one in this Twitch chat is going to think that we are the most well-informed Twitch chat in wrestling, but for general purposes, a statement to all involved, Alexa Bliss had nothing to do with Bray Wyatt being fired. Lexi Kaufman and Wyndham Rotunda worked together to create a horror movie style environment, with Bliss infusing her typical Disney style into the character at moments where they believed it applicable. They worked very well together. It's been a while since they've actually worked together though, with them being actively split after WrestleMania. The only people blaming Alexa for this are, to be blunt, brain-dead morons with just a pinch of massive sexism. Bliss has nothing to do with it. WWE talent feeling a lack of job security has also been mentioned in reports. However, that's not just since Bray Wyatt was released. It's being touted as news now because it's profitable to post repeat reports. We heard the same reports when Strowman and Black were released because they were considered untouchable. In fact, we had the same reports even earlier. In reality, job security issues started plaguing the company when Samoa Joe was first fired. He was the first quote-unquote untouchable to be fired. And even though he's back, it's clear because he's back that Triple H has favourites he will protect and others that he will not. To touch on the Triple H NXT situation a little further here. Triple H did risk a lot in bringing Samoa Joe back. I can confirm that he will not be doing the same for Wyndham Rotunda. Triple H and Rotunda have apparently spoken, but I'm not aware of any of the details of the conversation. The WWE executives, and I'm particularly looking towards Nick Khan here, were not best pleased with Triple H bringing Samoa Joe back. Thank you very much for gifting a sub to the chat, Get the Tables, and I hope you are very excited to get that one, noob. Thank you very much, Get the Tables, really do appreciate that. It is extremely unlikely Triple H will be bringing anyone other than Samoa Joe back to NXT. Wyndham Rotunda has been fired from the WWE. He does not own his song or his name, but he does own the look of his unique character, The Fiend. What he does with it from here, I don't know, and I can only speculate. but I know that he'll create something enthralling in both positives and negatives that we will be talking about for years to come. Michael says, I feel bad for Alexa, she had to make her Twitter private, and it's not the first time. It's not the first time. It's not a good thing that people really abuse so many women in wrestling. Ed says, Bray Wyatt to OnlyFans confirmed. Well, he does have every option. I did say that. Not what I was thinking. Not what I was thinking, but yeah, sure. Kura says, WWE bringing back for less money? Probably not likely. Is it even an option? It's not necessarily an option at the moment. When it comes to someone like Wyatt, they may try to bring him back for less, but he was fired and I don't think he'll be willing to do it, basically. Someone7 says, how do you think the crowd will be tonight? Dicks. I'm looking forward to that. Captain Buzzy says, what happened with Wyatt just feels like another example of the performer deserving so much more despite a degree of success. Yeah, he had a degree of success, but ultimately the WWE chose to keep going back to the Goldberg, the Brock Lesnar well, the Randy Orton well. Randy Orton should not have won that championship at WrestleMania. I firmly believe that. Get the Table says, I just don't understand how the WWE could screw up the Bray Wyatt character. I just don't see what Vince didn't see in Bray. What I will say is that Vince McMahon is one of Bray Wyatt's biggest cheerleaders. The issue wasn't Vince McMahon on this one. The issue was just kind of everyone else. Get the Table says, Bray was making them so much money on merchandise, right? Yeah, but it's nothing compared to how much he was costing them in essentially his salary when he's not there. I know it's really been focused on a lot that Bray was making a lot of money in merchandise. We don't know how much money he was making them in merchandise, and we don't know what his contract was. Let's say he was on a $3 million a year contract and he was making them $3,000 a year in merch. When you factor in the cost of production, Bray Wyatt's personal cut of that merch, that goes down, and before you know it, he's not justifying his salary. So it's not enough. Clearly it wasn't enough for Nick Khan. Michael says, is Vince really losing control of the company? I just would have thought he'd have the last say. I do know you've said that Nick Khan has taken a lot of responsibility. I have said that. I find it very interesting that over the course of the last couple of days, Nick Khan's name has been in all the damn headlines. And I think a lot of people have been watching my videos on Nick Khan to catch up with what was going on. I think a lot of people have been watching those videos to catch up. Because I've been ahead when it comes to Nick Khan for a while. Nick Khan does have a lot of say in the WWE. He's not in charge in any way, shape or form. Vince is still in charge. But Vince is not the sole voice at the top anymore. Vince is choosing to be less involved. Choosing to be less involved. Get the Table says, was his contract on the level of Strowman? In and about, yes. It wasn't exactly the same, but from everything I can glean, it was in and about the same. Brandon says, I know Vince isn't exactly a saint, but I kind of hate how much stick he gets for some things that aren't even directly his fault. Let's not forget he's also done quite a lot of good, and the way he's built all this up is phenomenal, and it's truly his creation. Personally, I understand why it's so hard for him to take a step back. I think a lot of us would be lying if we said we wouldn't miss him when he is no longer with us. I would miss him. He's essentially built wrestling. Modern wrestling is a Vince McMahon invention. It is. WCW was built on the Vince McMahon model. AEW is built on the Vince McMahon model. It is. It's really that blunt. Western wrestling is based around everything Vince McMahon does. That said, I'm unhappy with a lot of the choices he's made. The Saudi Arabia deal, for example. And while I'm a trust the process guy, I'm also a trust the process guy at other companies as well. I'm a big New Japan fan, as a lot of you know. Get the Table says, is there any reason why Vince wouldn't give the company to Triple H and Steph? Here's the issue that you've got. Triple H never wanted to be what Triple H is right now. He only ever wanted to wrestle, and he sort of accidentally walked into the boardroom. He doesn't want the gig. Stephanie McMahon is much the same. She doesn't want the gig. The immediate option would have been Shane McMahon, but he wasn't offered the gig, so he went away and got a gig of his own. And so we have Nick Khan.